Hello, everyone. This is Wes Henson, pastor of the Ridge Church, and the Ridge Church campus is located at 7350 Old Highway 13 in Carbondale, Illinois. And this is week 2 of the 6-session series titled Elijah, Living Outside the Comfort Zone. Now, last week we were introduced to King Ahab and Queen Jezebel. And as you remember, they were leading the people of Israel away from God to worship false gods, such as Baal and the Asherah. Baal was the god of thunder and rain and lightning, the god of the environment, if you will. He was the one that was responsible for the good crops at harvest time. But then Elijah enters the scene and he confronts King Ahab, telling him that it's not going to rain for a long time, and it ended up being about 3.5 years. So this is a direct challenge to the power of Baal. And it took courage for Elijah to confront the king in that way. And the point of our lesson last week was that serving God often takes courage. Well, following this great confrontation, the Lord tells Elijah to leave Israel. And that's where we pick up in today's study. So click below for a 2-page outline and a study guide of this lesson. And then join us on Tuesday at 6:30 on Facebook or our website, and we will go into greater detail. Okay, let's pick up in 1 Kings chapter 17, and we're going to be reading from or studying and focusing on verses 7 through 12. In verse 9, Elijah says, "Get up, go to Zarephath," the Lord says to Elijah, "Get up, go to Zarephath that belongs to Sidon, and stay there. Look, I have commanded a woman who is a widow to provide for you there." And so Elijah does that, and he arrives, and there's the woman, and he tells her to may give him something to eat because he's hungry. And then in verse 12, this is what she says. "As the Lord your God lives, I don't have anything baked, only a handful of flour in the jar and a bit of oil in the jug. Just now I am gathering a couple of sticks in order to go prepare it for myself and my son so we can eat it and die." Well, the truth here is that we are to follow God's direction even when it doesn't make sense. And so here's the irony of Elijah going to Zarephath in Sidon. This city is in the heart of the pagan stronghold of Jezebel. So this is right at the heart of Baal worship. And that's where God sends Elijah. And God often calls on us to follow his direction, even when it does not make sense to us. I mean, what makes sense about sending Elijah to the very strongholds of Baal worship? And then secondly, how could Elijah expect an impoverished widow to provide for his needs? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. But the path of obedience and the path of faith run parallel. And we have to look to God and not our circumstances before we can see the will of God. God said go, and Elijah went, even though it made little sense to him. All right, let's go on to verses 13 and 14. So then verse 13, "So then Elijah said to her, 'Don't be afraid. Go and do as you have said, but first make me a small loaf from it and bring it out to me. And afterward you may make some for yourself and your son.'" So the truth here is that we should encourage others to join us in trusting God. So the widow had nothing to offer Elijah, and there were no prospects of getting more. She had lost hope, she had given up, and Elijah might have joined in her despair. After all, he too had nothing for sustenance. But the difference was that Elijah had learned from experience that his God always provided. Elijah didn't have to see God's promises with his eyes to claim them by faith. Okay, let's move on to verses 15 and 16. In verse 15 we read, "So she proceeded to do according to the word of Elijah, and then the woman, Elijah, and her household ate for many days." So the truth here is that we see God work when we trust his guidance. Ignoring reason, the widow used her last resources to feed Elijah. And by trusting God, she opened the door for God to prove himself. And as a result, the widow, her household, and Elijah all ate for many years. God miraculously multiplied what she entrusted to him, and he provided for her throughout the 3.5-year drought. Okay, so that's an overview of our study. So how can we apply it? What's What's our live it out? How will we express our trust in God? So let me give you 3 quick applications. Number 1, one is trust. Identify one thing that God has told you to do that doesn't seem logical. Do it anyway. Application number 2, encourage. Name someone struggling with a crisis. Make time to meet with that person and share with them your hope in Jesus. And then application number 3, give. Give an outrageous gift to your church or to someone in need, and then trust God to replenish what you need. All right, let's wrap it up for this week. God is faithful to meet our needs. Let us trust God for his provision, even in the most difficult seasons of life, which may be right now. All right, click below for a 2-page outline and a study guide of this lesson, and I hope that you will join this study. You can join it at the Ridge Church on Sundays at 9 a.m. or join us online on Facebook or our website 6:30 on Tuesday. Okay, bye for now.